Welcome to the King Street Cinema podcast. My name's Andy. At first episode of the year. Happy New Year to you all. The cinema will be open as of the 6th. Hopefully this episode will be out before then. We're going to focus on possibly my favourite film. Do you ever get asked what your favourite film is? And it's a difficult question, isn't it? I always say this movie, The Blues Brothers, which will be shown on Friday the 22nd at 8:30 as part of the VHS Fridays, what I'm very much looking forward to. The reason I say it's my favourite movie is, for me, it's got everything. We'll talk about it more throughout the episode. I am joined by a very special guest, Rob Lewis, local musician in loads of bands. We touch on that in the chat, including a Blues Brothers tribute act. And at the very end of the show as well, we're going to catch up with another local musician, another very special guest, Chris Asker, who joined us on the last episode talking about Muppet Christmas Carol. He's just have a few words about the Blues Brothers as well. I thought it was nice to get a couple of musicians talking about this very music based movie, and we'll be catching up with James Rowe from King Street as well, who'll be talking about so many other movies that'll be shown at that cinema this January. So I'm going to get straight to it. We've got a lot to chat about this episode, but first I talk with Rob Lewis about the Blues Brothers. Rob, thanks for joining us.
No worries, good to be here.
Yeah, and first time on this podcast. I have interviewed you before.
Yes.
On Faces of Suffolk.
That's right, yeah.
About your music in general. That might have been before you started the Blues Brothers thing.
It would have been, yes, yeah. I mean, I didn't start it. It's been going for a few years now. It's a guy called Andee, and he did it with someone down in Surrey, Kent, somewhere else, and he moved up here. And obviously the other half of his act couldn't be part of it, so he was looking for someone else. And I called him up, and here we are.
Okay, so what's the name of the act? Just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, we're 106 miles to Chicago. So we don't do Jake and Elwood, we're just sort of generic guys in suits. Okay. Yeah, we do a lot of the Blues Brothers songs. We also do a couple of other ones, some of the Commitments tracks, sort of standard soul and Motown classics, but in the Blues Brothers style, and we do the dance moves and everything else. Yeah, which we're all getting old and overweight, but we still manage to do it.
Yeah. Well, Dan Aykroyd still does it on occasion, doesn't he? And James Belushi often gets up with him, John's brother. I was going to ask you, if you weren't that, I was going to make the joke about John Goodman or the other fella whose name I forgot from Blues Brothers 2000. But I'm guessing because
Miles Dyson.
That's the fella.
Yes.
From Terminator 2.
Yes.
Yeah. So you take it you're a big fan of the film.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Even the second one.
Second one's, I think, is enjoyable. Yeah. It gets a bit of a bad rap, really. I see it as a PG version of the original.
Yeah. I just love John Goodman as well. But
great actor. But do you remember the first time you saw the Blues Brothers?
Yeah, I was a kid, and if I'm completely honest, I'm not sure I really got it back then and really enjoyed it. So I just have vague recollections of either my older brother watching it or sister's husband or whoever it was. But it was probably, when I sat and watched it properly, was about 14 or 15, I think. And I was like, this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, right at my sort of sense of humour,
Yeah, so it was just sort of shown to you, was it?
It was on in the background.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like I said, I can't remember if it was at home or if it was my sister's house, but it was just kind of there. I was like, oh, there's the car chase, and that's pretty cool. But I didn't really get the whole the sort of what's the word, the feeling of the film. It was just two guys going around.
Yeah.
At that point, but when I watched it properly, I was like, "Yeah, this is cool. This is my thing."
Yeah. So it was one of because it was shown on VHS Fridays, which is kind of about the classic movies that most of us watched growing up on VHS. I'm guessing, well, you would have been too young to see it at the cinema first time around.
Absolutely, yeah. I was born in '79.
Well, so you would probably being born as that was being filmed.
Yeah.
So you'd have watched it on VHS. Have you ever seen it in the cinema?
No, I haven't.
So this is one I know, because I have asked you. You really wanted to come, but you've actually got a gig.
I have got a gig, which is a shame. I'd love to. Could have got the put the band back together for the night and done a little set for you as well. But unfortunately, it's not to be.
But the one that you will, obviously you'd go if you can.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to ask, being the age you are, I mean, when I first was aware of this film, I'd see the video cover a lot. And I kind of got in my head it might have been sort of a gangstery type film.
Was it the one with the two of them sort of back to back, or the two of them sitting at the car on the bottom of the car?
I think the video cover was the two of them back to back. It was like their top halves.
Yes, yeah.
Which was the first. I owned a copy of that on video. My cousin lent it to me when I was probably far too young to watch it. To be honest, 'cause it's 15 mainly for language, isn't it? For swearing.
Yes.
But when I did watch it, I couldn't believe it was Dan Aykroyd, because growing up I was a massive Blues Brothers fan, Ghostbusters fan.
Yeah.
And then I got into Blues Brothers, and it took me a while to process at a young age that this is the same guy.
Same here, yeah.
And only made 4 years apart. Ghostbusters was intended to have John Belushi as well. Did you make that connection at a young age?
I think when I watched it, or when it was on in the background, like I told you, I was aware that it was Dan Aykroyd, and he was the guy, he was Ray from Ghostbusters, which is probably why I had a passing interest in it, you know.
Yeah.
I was aware, but I didn't know that he'd written Blues Brothers as well, or co-written it.
Yeah.
With John Landis?
It was, yeah, directly he co-wrote it. And obviously he co-wrote Ghostbusters as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're two quite different films.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
And to be honest, two of the most iconic films ever when you look at it. And for him to do that in the space of 4 years, I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But Blues Brothers didn't do very well at all at the box office.
No.
Came from Saturday Night Live sketches. Were you aware of? Well, not really sketches. They were musical guests.
It was because I've got a DVD, and it's called The Best of the Blues Brothers, and it's all in French for some reason, but it's got English subtitles. Well, the dialogue is in English, but like the titles are all in French.
Okay. Is that where Dan Aykroyd interviews Elwood Blues?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and it's got like the first ever time they were seen, and it was John Belushi dressed up as a bumblebee, singing "I'm a King Bee Baby." Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it started out just as that, didn't it? And
and
then it was like, we can do more of these, and a lot of people aren't aware. They say, "Oh, I love the Blues Brothers," but they've only ever seen the film and heard the soundtrack, and it's like, actually, they were a working band before the film was released.
The two live
albums where they were recorded in LA, I believe, where they were supporting the Grateful Dead.
One of them, they were supporting Steve Martin.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
One of them, they were supporting Steve Martin, because he was
the second one.
Stadium-size stand-up.
Yes, I'm sure that Briefcase Full of Blues was supporting the Grateful Dead, so maybe it was made in America.
Yeah, it could have been.
Steve Martin.
Yeah, possibly, because I don't know, but that's what I read.
Yeah.
And those albums were massive, and it was because of those albums and the appearances on SNL that they made the movie.
Yeah.
And with the amount of cameos, not just musicians, Steven Spielberg's in it. And,
Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, just John Candy.
Yeah.
They seem,
Oz.
Yeah. They just seem to get everyone.
Yeah.
And to me, it's still shocking that it didn't do very well.
Was it bad publicity or something like that?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't know what it went up against. Or it could just be...
Was it 1982 it came out, wasn't it?
1980.
1980.
Yeah, so I don't know. But it might have been that... it's the definition of a cult film, this. So maybe the people who really did like it were diehard. They sort of bought everything and would go to the shows. And then maybe they just didn't think it translated to film well.
Possibly, but it's changed now, isn't it? So.
Definitely, and it's just become this massive thing that there's. I think it was last year there was the first. They'd done a Blues Brothers festival in America,
right?
Where there's impersonators or surviving cast members were there. Aykroyd and James Belushi's done a set, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
And I just think it's something that will never go away, which is. For me, great. I mean, I haven't got a favourite movie, but if I'm asked, I will say the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, it's definitely up there in my top 10.
Yeah, I can't think of a more enjoyable film.
Apart from Ghostbusters, I think.
Do you prefer Ghostbusters?
I think if I had to choose, it would just be Ghostbusters, only through nostalgia. I think, yeah.
What are your thoughts on another SNL creation he made, or turned into a film, Coneheads?
I saw it once. I've not really been in a hurry to see it since.
You weren't a fan.
I don't remember it being terrible or being fantastic. I just remember watching it, and that was it. And I just kind of haven't felt the need to see it again.
Yeah, I mean that's one that came out.
I can't remember much about it.
Came out '93. I think off the success of Wayne's World, they wanted to make another.
Was it that late?
Yeah, '93. Yeah.
Before that.
No, the sketches were the '70s. Then they made a film in '93, which I think, off the back of SNL success with Wayne's World, they wanted to do this. I think Dan Aykroyd wanted to do it for a long time. I really enjoy it. I don't think it's on the level of Ghostbusters and Blues Brothers, but there's so many SNL cameos. It's like that's the film.
Whereas I think what's her name from not Kirstie Alley, from Kate and Alley,
Jane Curtin.
That's it.
Who was an original Saturday Night Live cast member as well. Probably most well known to British audiences for Third Rock from the Sun, which was a big hit over here. So Dan Aykroyd, I think, is an underrated talent. And the two films, Blues Brothers and Ghostbusters, he'll always be remembered for. And
it is him that plays the harmonica as well. It's not miming it, that is him.
Yeah, it's him. And he was the one who was really into the blues music. John Belushi was into heavy metal at the time. And you wouldn't think it. You'd think that he was just this man. I think he became a blues fan.
Yeah, that's probably how they got the Grateful Dead gig, I expect.
Yeah.
Through that.
Yeah, they played a lot, and it's you don't get things like this now. I mean, I suppose you've got things like Tenacious D, but that was silly, whereas they took the music seriously. If you look at the band they've got,
it's not spoof band, is it? It's not a comedy band.
No,
it's a comedy film, but the band itself is straight down the line, isn't it? The music is there's no silly gags, punchlines in the songs.
And at the time, with that style of music, I mean, you had it was the late 70s where they first started, so it had all been disco and sort of punk. It's almost like they could have really mocked the whole genre, but they don't. And with all, I keep talking about all the cameos. I mean, what's your favourite, firstly, cameo in the film and song? Because there's a lot of songs and there's a lot of cameo.
I think cameo, probably Carrie Fisher, just because it's Carrie Fisher. And song, I don't know, it's either Sweet Home Chicago or She Caught the Katie. Just because they're my two favourite ones to sing, I think. Yeah,
which you do in your solo as well. Yeah. So, briefly mentioned the sequel.
Yes.
There was talk recently of an animated series. Which
really?
I don't know how that would. I suppose nowadays you get more adult cartoons, so you could do it that way. It's just one of those. The car. Are you into cars? This is something.
Yes, the Bluesmobile.
You can buy like models of it and everything.
I've got a little Matchbox size one of it.
And it's just there's so many, like I say, iconic things, and it's over 40 years old.
Yeah.
It's a basic thing, wearing the suits, the sunglasses. But when you see that, the first thing you think of is Blues Brothers.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't think Reservoir Dogs.
No, it's the hats that make the difference there, isn't it?
That's very true. Yeah, I suppose it's Men in Black.
Yeah.
And John Landis as well. Would you believe that was it the next film he made, or the one after was American Werewolf in London?
Was it?
Yeah.
With Rick Mayall.
Rick Mayall. Yeah, the biggest hit movie he was in.
Yeah.
It's just such a different film that people associated with it have gone on to do these different things.
And he did the Michael Jackson video, didn't he?
Thriller.
Was it that one?
John Landis did do Thriller.
Do that one. And the one I was thinking of was Black or White. I think with John Landis.
That might have been as well. Yeah. I mean, Thriller, American Werewolf in London, I suppose. Werewolves.
Yeah.
Both got cameos from Frank Oz in though.
Yes.
And it just, I mean, Blues Brothers have always been an iconic 80s movie. Would have been filmed in the 70s, but because of the music in it, I think it's a kind of timeless film.
It is. Yeah, there's no real dating on it. I mean, you could argue the cars, but they drive an old car anyway.
Yeah.
Like you say, the music is timeless. It's not really set in any period that's obvious. You could watch it in 100 years. And it would still have the same effect, I think.
And it did have, I don't know if it's been broken since, but the biggest car pile-up of whatever was broken by the second movie.
Yes, by one car.
One car.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's been broken.
I don't think so.
Because the only car movies I can really think of have been big since Blues Brothers 2000 are Fast and Furious.
And
I don't. It's not that sort.
That's all CGI and stuff, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. I've only seen the first one of them.
Yeah.
And around this time you'd have the Smokey and the Bandit, Cannibal Run films, but this just feels a classier film than that.
Yeah, and the Blues Brothers, they trashed them as well.
Yeah.
But they weren't just cars that I'm trying not to give too much. Bleep it out, but they're trashing them. It's not like they're just in the background in a chase. They are getting proper smashed up and dropped from great heights as well.
Yeah, it's just so much going on. There's explosions.
Yeah.
And, we're doing a spoiler free because we want people to see it, but also I think people who love the film, there'll probably be lots more people come along who've already seen it.
Yeah.
But plot wise, it's fairly simple. It's Elwood goes to pick up Jake from prison.
Yep.
He's just got out, and they find out the orphanage they were brought up in is closing down. They need to raise money to save it.
Yeah, $5,000.
$5,000, yeah. So they get their band back together to get a gig to pay that back. Falling out of everybody on the way, making lots of enemies, being chased right up to the final scenes of the movie.
And without giving too much away, it's a really short gig. 3 songs.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, no support act. Oh, there is. Cab Calloway supports, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, that's one of the songs.
That's one of the songs, yeah.
And you've got 2 more, and they leave halfway through.
Yeah, but who's to say someone didn't come on after?
That's true, yeah.
It's still longer than the gig in Airheads, where it's one song. And it really is a film that, I don't know if it's influenced things so much, but it's I watched Casablanca recently. That was shown at King Street as well.
Right.
And that's the sort of film that if you haven't seen it, when you do finally watch it, you feel like you have, because it's quoted so much, so many things have been spoofed. And I think the Blues Brothers is kind of like that.
Right.
Even when I first saw it, I reckon I'd have been 12.
Yeah.
There was things in it, and I'm like, as a kid, that's from the Blues Brothers. The sort of thing that probably in things like in the time like the Tiny Toons and them sort of animated things would have probably spoofed it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it's in like Green Onions, which is it was a #1 hit in America in the '60s. Whenever I hear that now, I think the Blues Brothers.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people probably the same.
Yeah, and Peter Gunn.
Yeah,
was it a film or a TV
show? I think.
But no one knows that. It's just the bit they're driving along in the Blues Brothers and do 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 do.
Yeah.
One thing I'd say about it is, speaking as a musician, I think it's impossible to sit through the Blues Brothers and at the end of it not say, I want to do a blues band.
Yeah.
I think every musician that watches that has had that thought. You know, they might not go anywhere with it, but they all have that, I want to do that sort of music, you know.
Yeah. And it's quite accessible music. It's not, like I've mentioned Wayne's World, which is very heavy metal.
Yeah.
Which people seem, I can see, I love it, but I can see why people don't like that style of music. It's kind of inoffensive blues, isn't it? So that's another reason I think it's quite accessible.
Catchy.
Yeah,
it's really tap your feet to it, and it's blues. It's to a certain degree predictive, so you know what's coming up. You know there's a bit coming up in a blues song.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. You can't love it.
Yeah. Just while I've got you, we're doing the VHS Fridays. You said it's one of your favourite films.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess from what you said, Ghostbusters might possibly be your favourite film.
It's certainly up there. Yeah. I don't know if I've got a favourite film.
Well, that's not because I can't answer that.
Yeah.
But you've seen what they're doing with the VHS Fridays. Is there anything, a film you grew up watching, loving, that you've never seen on the big screen but would like to?
Well, I have seen Ghostbusters and I have seen The Goonies. One that I'd like to... Oh, you see, I've got The Goonies there.
Yeah, we're in my flat recording as well.
I never saw Back to the Future at the cinema.
Oh, really?
I'd love to see that or those, It's a funny thing when people ask what my favourite movie is, I always group series together as one. When I say Back to the Future, I'll think of all 3 of them, and I say, Star Wars, I'm talking about all of them,
Yeah, with certain films, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
There's something like the Blues Brothers, I see it as 2 separate films because there's such a big gap.
Yeah.
Star Wars, even so like Karate Kid, because the quality in them, I see them as different films because I really like the first one, whereas I can give or take the second ones.
So I like the Rocky films as well. They're some of my favourites.
Yeah, but Back to the Future, I did see all 3. fairly recently after lockdown, another cinema showed them, and that was cool because growing up I never saw any of those in the cinema. But they showed recently the First Blood. Rambo was the first one.
Right.
And that's a film I watched on video a lot as a kid because it was a 15. There's that stage where I weren't allowed to watch the 18 one, so I could watch Rambo, and I loved it. And
that's a classic.
Get so much more from the films on the big screen.
Die Hard in the Jungle.
Yeah. So, Back to the Future would be your suggestion.
I think so.
But a triple bill.
Yes, yeah. I would certainly like to see that in the cinema. You're talking about kids' films.
Not necessarily the films you watched as a kid.
I'd like to see Terminator and Terminator 2 in the cinema. I missed that.
Yeah.
When it came out.
There was an anniversary for Terminator. Must have been.
I'm looking at your...
It came out in 84. So
discs for...
You're looking around the flat. So basically there's a lot of horror things chucked about, so that might not be...
There's a lot of horror stuff here.
Yes.
That's just sort of culty stuff there.
I've got a whole shelf. People can't see. I should put a photo on the Facebook of... I've got
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf is a
that
classic.
That would be up there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's overshadowed by Back to the Future, released the same year.
Have you seen Teen Wolf 2?
Jason Bateman's finest moment.
Oh, it's
bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah. I rewatched it recently, and it was better than I remembered.
Right.
It's still not very good, and it's better than Teen Witch. If you've seen that one,
no.
So that's but just going back to the Blues Brothers.
Yes, we digress.
Tragic what happened to John Belushi.
Yes.
Do you feel that they'd have done a sequel sooner, or how do you think the whole thing would have gone if he was
I don't know. I don't know whether Belushi would have done a sequel. That's the other thing.
Because I think Ghostbusters would have gone completely different if he was.
Yes.
If he had still been with us when they made that, it wouldn't have been a PG.
I don't know that it would have been as good.
No, I don't. It wouldn't be the thing it is. It wouldn't have been the franchise.
Although Dan Aykroyd wrote it and he was the second name in it, you think Ghostbusters, you think Bill Murray.
Dan
Aykroyd comes to the mind second, but Bill Murray's the first one that.
And I think a lot of that is possibly what he improvised on the set. So yes, but I mean, when you look at John Belushi, wasn't with us long, made very few films, but Blues Brothers and Animal House, the same director, are two just cult classics.
Neighbours was one that I liked, and that was kind of Dan Aykroyd had the zany kind of role in that, and Belushi was almost a straight man.
Yeah, they deliberately swapped roles, and that film really bombed. That and when you think about it, the only hit movie he actually had was Animal House. He done what was it? Continental Divide was his last film, where he played a journalist in more of a comedy drama.
I've not seen that one.
That's okay, but I think he after Blues Brothers wanted to be more recognised as an actor opposed to a comedian. But I think if he'd have beaten the Problems, he could have gone on to be a great comic actor. And this Blues Brothers would be remembered fondly, but I don't think it would have been the big thing.
Maybe not. It could have been through what happened to him that helped people to get behind it. It's just nowhere known. Little weird little fact. Let me see if I can get this right. The night that Belushi died, one of the last people he spoke to was Ace Frehley.
Oh right.
On the phone, I believe. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. They were good mates, Ace Frehley and
from Kiss. If you're not a Kiss fan, and also, wasn't Robin Williams there that night?
Very possibly.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that, but was it in a nightclub or something?
I think that people were in a nightclub. Then didn't you go back to like a motel or something? That's where he was playing.
It wasn't the famous Johnny Depp one, was it? Everyone else goes on that one.
Yeah. But I mean, there was the book Wired, written about it, which they turned into a film, and that's been really. Basically, people involved don't read this book. It's so negative, and that's not what it was like. They turned it into a film in about '89,
really,
which Aykroyd and everyone just hate it.
What someone played Belushi?
Yeah. And then there's talk of an actual biopic coming out about him. So they've been talking about it for a couple of years. Forget the actor's name, but he was in Into the Wild and the Speed Racer movie. I can't think of his name, and I should have researched it. But I think there will be a proper John Belushi biopic. Hopefully less, because it just didn't make him out to be a nice guy. and they're saying, look, he wasn't perfect, but you've left out the good side to him.
Yeah, everyone has two sides, don't they? But
yeah, and I've read Wired a long time ago, and it's pretty grim.
oh wow!
But I read it when I was really young. I can't remember much about it, but I remember it being quite depressing to read it, which obviously, for what happened. But you got to remember the positive side of it. He's a very talented comic actor.
Yeah.
Those Saturday Night Live sketches. He was in 5 seasons in so many classic sketches.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the Saturday Night Live stuff. But as you know, I mean, the people listening might not know, I'm a singer, and the guy had no training to sing, but he could sing, and he belted out some great vocal talent there.
Have you seen his Joe Cocker impersonation?
Yes, I've seen that one.
Yeah, that's just classic. And really, really over the top. But I can't watch Joe Cocker now without thinking of that.
Yeah, he really could sing, and he used to do all the because I mean he wasn't a thin bloke, he wasn't a healthy bloke, but he'd do all backflips and cartwheels and stuff on stage, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
And then he'd do a couple of cartwheels, and he'd stand up straight and he's singing, and that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a bit of a belly,
Yeah, I mean, he was big. He wasn't like Chris Farley big.
No.
But he was very, very unhealthy.
He wasn't slim, was he?
No. So, and that all these things, that's why he was a legend. He was definitely a one-off. And, he's someone who should be remembered. So, basically, I want everyone to come and see this who can, who aren't
working. And if I wasn't working, I'd be there.
It's a Friday night, the 27th. Is there anything else about the Blues Brothers you want to get in? 'Cause we've been talking half an hour.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit irrelevant now, but a few years ago, my stag night, we all went out as Blues Brothers, and there was 20 of us walking through Ipswich, all dressed up in the suits and the shades and the hats, and we were in the nightclubs and stuff. That was pretty cool.
That's cool, yeah. And everyone knew who you were?
Yes, yeah. We even had one guy who was walking past, because we were in a photo, this was at the Mulberry Tree, or Milestone, whatever it was called then, and there was a guy walking past, and he was on his way to, like, kind of gangsters night, and he had very similar stuff. And we're like, come and have your photo taken. So we got this photo of all of us with this complete stranger who just happened to be in very similar gear. And he's like, he's like, yeah, I'll come and have a picture taken. Like, you know, a clue what was going on.
That's cool. Have you still got the picture?
Yes, yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot. Just, where can people find you online and stuff? Give yourself a plug while you're in.
Okay, yeah, I've got various things. I've got the Rob Lewis Music Artist. You can catch me on there. I'm in the bands Colourblind Hedgehogs, Game On, which is all 90s stuff, Stetsons Are Cool, and I've got my radio shows, which I do a country show every week on Rendlesham Radio, and a new show coming out on Rendlesham Radio with all local artists. So I've probably forgotten stuff as well because I do loads, but yeah, that's kind of the crux of it.
Well, thanks for finding some time to spend
No
with
worries,
us.
thanks. Hope everyone enjoys the film. Cheers.
James, thanks for joining us again. How are you?
All right, yeah, pretty good.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you to you. Yes, looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
2023.
A shorter month for you. You've had a bit of a break over Christmas.
Indeed, we are starting on the 6th. That's when we open, so that's this coming Friday.
Yeah, hopefully the podcast will go up the day before.
Yeah, just to let people know, it's the 3rd today. So
it is when we record it. We always do this.
Yeah.
So it's 3rd today, and
opening up on the 6th, which is Friday. And we are starting up with a film that we showed last year. We're going to do Living again. We're going to be living again for a couple of days, from the 6th till the 10th. So we don't need to really talk about that one, because we talked about that one before.
A favourite from last year.
It was a big movie. That's why it's come back. A lot of people came to it. Hopefully, more people, just as much, maybe even more, will come again. But the first film, as well, also starting on the 6th, playing till the 12th, is After Sun, which looks like a lovely little film, British movie by Mubi, which I think it might already be out on their website, maybe, to stream. But we're showing it, so come and see it.
Yeah, because this is one I really want to see. I don't know much about it at all.
Yeah.
But I've been looking at a lot of people's top top 10s of the years, and this has been in a lot of them.
Yeah, this is certainly one of these movies where, very emotional, very heartfelt, done very well. Relationship between father and a daughter going on holiday and basically spending some quality time together. Seems very bittersweet, I think. I think it might have quite a sad element to it. So yeah, if you're into those sort of films about relationships and about, parents, if you are a parent yourself, you might feel something in this film.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it's really going for. It's going for the sort of, real life kind of thing. I don't feel like this is a sort of a fantasy film or anything like that. Though there may be elements in that, maybe in the way it's directed. But I think it's very much meant to make people feel like, I know this. I've experienced this kind of thing. Relatable. Yeah, very relatable.
Pulls the emotional strings.
Yeah, indeed. It is, the actors are Scottish, or at least are speaking with a Scott accent, and therefore may be difficult for some people to follow, as they decided to put subtitles on the trailer. Which I found a little bit annoying.
Yeah, I will tell quickly the story of when I was a kid. My dad used to put the subtitles on Ramsay Nesbitt when we watched it.
Right.
But the film isn't subtitled. I'm guessing you'll do an afternoon showing where there is.
That is a good question. We very well may be. I'm just going to have a quick look at that.
I reckon you are.
We are not, in fact. That will be living for the Tuesday.
Bugger. But no. But I mean, I saw the trailer for that and thought sometimes you get the films where some of it's in a different language, so they just put it all in subtitles.
Yeah, that's true. We've actually got a film coming up later in the month that has that in it. In fact, where it's mostly in Austrian, but some of it's in English as well. So I don't know. It was just a bit strange, I thought, when we saw the trailer.
It might be that they just had an international. One trailer for every country. No, it would be written in English, would it? I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's one of those things. Yeah. And that, anyway.
Yeah.
But I am very much looking forward to it. In fact, every film that we've got showing this month, I am very much looking forward to. In fact, they all, to me, look very, very interesting. So, it's a good start to the month. We're then following up from the only showing 2 days, on the 11th and the 12th, so that's midweek, Wednesday and Thursday. We have a little Austrian film called Rimini, which looks very darkly comedic, with again elements, I think, of reality and a bit more brutal and sleazy side of life. Seems to be about a man who is a kind of cabaret or lounge type singer, aging, who kind of perhaps has delusions of grandeur. Yet at the same time does have a very old, aging following, mainly of women, who he does seem to, though which the trailer suggests, also has sex for money with. So, some prostitution in there with the fans.
It sounds different anyway.
Very different.
I'm just checking it, and it is an 18 certificate.
It is an 18 certificate, so I'm guessing a lot of perhaps nudity and sex in it, as well as probably some harsh language. But from the feeling I get, though, will not be sexy in any way. Will be very much like, oh, that's a bit nasty. Yeah,
that's so different. I'm not even aware of this stuff. Just looking through the little brochure.
Yes, I never heard of the director, Ulrich. I'm going to Seidel, maybe Austrian filmmaker. So first time I've come across this person. In fact, as well as the film before, After Sun, was directed by Charlotte Wells, who I believe that's her first film.
Yeah,
her first feature film.
Yeah, I'm sure on the trailer there's a lot of debut.
Yeah. So very different movies. I'd say those first two films, but worth watching. I think. Yeah. From what I from the
both saying quite different, and it's January, isn't it? So you're not gonna. There's not going to be as many as the leftover blockbusters tend to get the big release.
Indeed. And we're going to be showing some of those, some big, but we are trying to make sure that some of the more smaller international movies also get shown.
Yeah.
Because, that's part of what we have always done.
Yeah, I mean, I will say as well that looking at cinemas across the scope, I've had recent weekends in Colchester, for example, so I can't see you. But looking at the big cinemas, there doesn't seem many films released. Usually Boxing Day is a big day.
Yes.
And so what I noticed is only one film, the Whitney Houston one,
right,
seems to be the new film anyway. Everything else is still Avatar.
Yes.
So if you want to escape from these big ones, you're the
well, this is it.
To.
Indeed. I mean, there will obviously be a couple of big films that we will be showing. Nothing like an Avatar. Dramas mostly, obviously, with some big names that we will be showing. But yes, for the most part, it will be films that you won't see anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that is, and always has been, sort of our main selling point.
Yeah. And I said different films, and one last year for me was I wouldn't have even heard of if it wasn't for your cinema. Was Funny Pages.
Yeah.
And great film.
Right.
And it certainly wasn't shown anywhere else in Ipswich.
Yeah.
So, cool.
No, I wouldn't have thought it would have been.
No. But, what have we got next?
All right, so if we're moving on to the next week, so starting on the what have we got? 13th, Friday the 13th. Showing for 2 weeks, this one, so that's till the 26th, is Empire of Light, which I believe is probably going to be one of the big movies of the year. Sam Mendes, so big filmmaker there, 1917, which was a big war movie not too long ago that he made, and he also made some of the James Bond movies early on. Skyfall as well. Yeah, well, he came back to do Bond then as well, because I think he did some earlier Bond films, didn't he, as well? With Daniel Craig, obviously.
Okay.
So yeah, big name. Yeah, big name in it. Olivia Colman is the lead, so Oscar winner.
Yeah.
Norwich lady or Norfolk lady, so fairly local.
Star of Peep Show.
Star of Peep Show, with I think Toby Jones in a very much a supporting role, and young lad Michael Ward, I believe is his name. We might have to look that up. I might have said that wrong.
It is Michael Ward.
Yeah. I think in one of his first movies. Yes, film set in the 1980s, about an interracial couple who work in a cinema, I believe. So there's some connections there with what we do.
Yeah.
And trailer looks really good. Like it looks like it will be a really good, well made, probably a little bit schmaltzy, but I think more solid and relatable and hard hitting with lots of 80s references, I think, but not done in a cheesy, silly way. But
it's not going to be like people brightly coloured roller skating about.
No, no. And it's set there, I think, by the sea. I'm not sure where, but seaside-y kind of place.
Yeah.
So that's
a pier cinema.
And so you're going to have that kind of feel of old seaside town kind of feel. I quite like movies like that have that as a setting. So I
think it's one of those. The director who normally does like big budget films, like they do 1917 as well. Sometimes they take a step back, or seem to take a step back and do something more personal. And this certainly seems that.
I think so.
This is what I'm really looking forward to. He's a director. I'm not big on the Bond films.
No.
Skyfall I did like, and I do think he's a really good director.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see him do more of a drama. And the cast he's got.
Did he direct American Beauty? I think he did.
Oh, I think he did.
Yeah,
You're
I think
right.
that might be one of his earlier films. He comes from theatre He has a theatre background, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But then started making films. And that was an early one. So that was a drama,
Yeah.
I don't think probably very different to this one, but still not an action film with
Yeah.
So he's got
Colin Firth as well there.
Oh yes, Colin Firth's in it as well, I believe. Again in a supporting role. Playing, from what the trailer suggests, perhaps the bad guy, the villain of the film. Yeah. So,
but it looks like it's a good cast, a mixture of new and sort of British
upcoming,
British actors. But sometimes you get these films and it looks like they've just stuck the big names in for a small cameo to sell it. But this doesn't look like that. It looks like they've got proper characters to play.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes
absolutely, yes.
Because there's a lot of films I can remember years ago where like Bob Hoskins would be on the poster and he's barely in it. But this looks like it's a character piece.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Olivia Colman's clearly the star of it, and it looks like it, from the way it's being sold, marketed as awards film that she'll probably be nominated for many awards. Whether she wins or not, I have no idea. But
this is what I'm very much looking forward to.
Yeah. That hopefully will be hopefully they all do well this month, but that should be the big one for the month.
Yeah.
As far as sales go. On the Friday as well, so one-off showing, we have our musical night, and we have The Last Waltz, which is, in my opinion, one of the best concert movies ever made. Martin Scorsese film, so, you know, you got a name who he knows, not only knows how to make feature films, has made lots of documentaries in his time, and music footage, things like that. So this is a great movie. It has loads of big names in it. But first off, The Last Waltz was meant to be the last concert of a band called The Band, who were a fairly big band in the late 60s through most of the 70s, sort of roots rock Americana type thing, even though they were a Canadian band, but whatever, you know. So yeah, they are the main part of the film, but also in the concert you have loads of names. You have Muddy Waters, Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell's in there, Dr. John, who's great. You know. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. I mean, if you like that kind of music, or really any just music in general, really, and you want to see some really, really good footage of people playing their music, then you got to see this movie.
Yeah, it's one of the most famous.
Yeah, it must be.
I mean, growing up, being a fan of the Rock and Roll, as it's called, the two documentaries, what always came up was this and the Woodstock one.
Yeah.
You know,
which Martin Scorsese was an editor on.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, when he was young, it was one of the first movies he did. Worked on.
This is one that it is. I might be working that night, but if not, I'm definitely going to go. I've never seen it.
Right.
And it's music I like. It's Scorsese. There's not much not to like about this. Just looking at it. And, to be honest, it's just under 2 hours. So
it's not stupidly long.
Yeah, the Woodstock one goes on.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Though this is really tight. I think it's done really well. And, it's great. It's just fantastic. It's very, you watch it and you think, if you like films of that period as well, of the 70s, if you like, old footage of musicians playing and stuff like that, you feel it. You go, oh wow, that's back then, wasn't it? When they were like mega stars and it wasn't all silly and stuff. Yeah. It's great. It's really, really good. So I very much recommend people to go see that one, as well as on the next day for a one night showing we have a new restoration of the 1950s film Rashomon, which is by Akira Kurosawa. It's Japanese. It's one of the most famous films in the world, as in international cinema. In fact, it was the film that put Japan on the map internationally in cinema, and it is actually personally one of my favourite films. Oh. So, yes, very happy to be showing this. So, go see it.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful tale of set in 12th century Japan, about a crime that is committed that we see told from 4 different points of view.
Okay.
So for 4 different people that were involved in the incident, and we see it played out differently by their retelling of what happened.
Okay. And this won't surprise you that I haven't seen it.
No. But I think you should definitely go see it. It's not long, it's only like about 90 minutes. So again, nothing too time taxing, and the story is very interesting and exciting.
Yeah,
it is not a boring, slow, just talky. It's really good. Yeah, it's definitely.
It's made in the 50s as well.
1950.
1950. So to be honest, a film 70 years old, more than that, to still be talked about and shown, it's not going to be slow. It's not going to. No.
It's a classic piece of cinema that if you watch carefully, well, not even carefully, just watch it, you will see influences in loads of Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So
that's just the one one showing at 6 o'clock on the 14th.
That's right. Yeah.
So
that's the weekend of the Empire of Light's first week.
Yeah.
So those are the two other films that will be showing on the weekend, Friday and Saturday. During the week, we have another little film from a director, two directors, in fact. The Dardenne brothers, perhaps. They're Belgian filmmakers. They've made many films, definitely some that we have shown in the past. They tell dramas, these guys. They're very good at it. This one is called Tori and Lotia. And yes, it's a film about two African children, or in their teens, brother and sister, who have moved to Belgium, or who are finding it very difficult to continue to be in Belgium. And the authorities are kind of after them and things. And yeah, it's a film about people trying to, get by, sort of thing. And yeah, looks really good. Looks really, just down to earth, honest. Perhaps again relatable to certain people. Again, really looking forward to that one.
that's just one I've seen the trailer for quite a while ago. I think I saw the trailer.
You very well might have. I think it's been kicking around for most of, or at least a good few months of last year.
Yeah, that looks good, and you could, on some of these nights, if you fancy two films, do a double bill, couldn't you?
You could, yes, on the weekends, yes, certainly, yeah.
That's what I'd suggest. So I don't like doing much apart from going to the cinema. So,
but yes, during the week, which will be when that film will be shown on Wednesday and Thursday, 19th and 18th. There are no double bills for.
You could on the Thursday if you've done the Empire of Light at 6 o'clock and then watch that afterwards at 25 to 9.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Are we doing no?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Then yes, you are absolutely right.
Yeah, I would say I did my research, but I've got the brochure.
No, this is okay. So I have to mention that, and this is clearly a new thing that we are doing, because we were not doing double bills on the during the week until now.
Long weekends, how I see it.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
Cool.
Brilliant. So we're packing them in. Yeah. More and more. All right, and then on Friday, when we are still playing Empire of Light, but we have another film, another Austrian movie, this time a period piece, called Corsage, which I believe is a biopic of the Empress of Austria, not Empress, Princess of Austria, I think, and perhaps Queen of Hungary at the time, Elizabeth. I think it's set in the late 19th century. I believe she was also assassinated as well. In reality, I don't know if the film is going to play.
I think the film is like a fictional account of what could have happened.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
there we go. See, I didn't think any of that, because none of that's in the trailer anyway. That doesn't give the impression, and it also gives the impression more of her in her younger years. Not when she was assassinated, I think, in her 60s. So yeah, it's like you say, perhaps a fictional telling of her life.
Yeah.
It's clearly it's done very much. The trailer gives us off very much a girl power film, feminist movie. So yeah, that's cool.
I've heard the humour in this film is really good as well.
Right.
The little bit I've read about it, because it's one that I think it had one of those trailers what doesn't tell you much at all.
Yeah, it just gives you a lot of a lot of imagery and not really storytelling, which is good, especially if you like period dramas and you like costumes, because there's a fuckload of those. Sorry, excuse language in this,
adult content.
Yes, so it's one that I was watching it going, yeah, cool. There's going to be people that like that kind of thing are definitely going to come see this movie.
Can I just say one thing? What does annoy me with modern cinema is a trailer which just tells you too much.
Yeah, sure.
In recent weeks, I've been watching loads of even more than normal 80s and 90s horrors. And I always watch the trailer after I've seen the film, because I like to see what they've taken and what they've done. And from that era, even when there was a voiceover, that they used to, they used to have that one voice on every trailer.
Yeah,
it gives
in
away
a world.
It gives away less than. Obviously, they know what they're doing, and cinema's evolving. So I must be wrong here.
No. I don't think so.
I just love a trailer which shows you a little bit, or the premise.
Yeah, absolutely.
But sometimes a trailer will look like there'll be a something was an obvious, not twist, but big plot point is in the trailer. And then you go and see it, and you're like, well, when's that going to happen?
Yeah,
and
that's kind of a thing now. I think, sadly, people, the people that make the trailers have become really cynical and just think, oh, well, everyone knows what the story's going to be now. You know, they just know already, so we might as well just give it to them. You know, it's rubbish, isn't it? It's rubbish.
I like clues and intrigue. You know, what's that about? I'll go and see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you do still get those trailers, but you're right. With the massive films, you don't really anymore. They, like I say, they just go, oh, well, they know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's rubbish.
So, right. Moving on from my rant.
So that's Corsage, anyway.
That's got a good few shows.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, brilliant. That should be, again, like I say, that's playing in Empire of Light's second week. Yeah. So it's playing alongside that. And then going into... Oh, I'll just quickly mention as well, on the 26th, there is a National Theatre Live, which is fantastic Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible, about Salem witch trials. It's brilliant. If you haven't seen it... I mean, I haven't seen this production, but I've seen the play a couple of times, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I saw it at the Wolsey a few years ago.
Did you?
And, of course, they made a film with Daniel Day-Lewis.
In the 90s. Yeah, that was cool, too. I like that.
I've owned the DVD for a very long time and never watched it. I'm weirdly, as much as I love films, I don't know if I've ever seen a Daniel Day-Lewis film.
Oh, what? How is that possible?
I've got to be wrong, but I haven't seen, like, Gangs of New York, The Man with One Foot, My Left Foot, I can't think. I haven't seen Last of the Mohicans.
No, you should see that.
There's a listeners who I
I've seen all of those. So
I run a pub. And there's a customer who always goes on about how I must watch Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, it's a good one,
and it's put me off a bit. And I did tell him the other week I'm not watching it because I haven't seen the first of the Mohicans.
Yeah, very good.
And I chuckled a lot. He didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't stop talking about me.
Okay, so shall we? Okay, so that's The Crucible. So go see that because it's great. And
and there's two more. Both of these films I definitely want to see, not counting obviously the Blues Brothers, which I've discussed.
Yeah, so on the 27th, which is a Friday, last Friday of the month, we have the Blues Brothers. Yada yada yada. It's already been talked about. So this is our VHS Fridays, which are back. We decided to come back with a bang. You should all go see it because it's great. And I
was about to ask you your opinion on Blues Brothers.
It's bloody brilliant, and everything. Because it is. It's one of the greatest comedies ever made.
And proof you don't really need a plot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just guys in sunglasses.
Yeah. And the other film that opens that day stars Dan Aykroyd's Dragnet co-star.
Indeed, yes. Tom Hanks in A Man Called Otto, which is very much looking like, let's see Tom Hanks do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So being a bit of a grouch in this one, but with reason, which, talking about trailers... telling you too much. This trailer definitely does that. Pretty much gives you not just the premise of how the film's going to play out, but plot by plot points as the trailer progresses. So grouchy guy, doesn't like people. You find out why in the trailer. His wife has died. So, that's a bit of a sad downer. It's going to make could make someone a bit grouchy. Family moves in next door. They're all very lively and happy and woo, and basically want to get involved in his life and make him realise that life's worth living again.
Yeah.
That's the movie. There you go.
But
probably going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally excited to see Tom Hanks back in a comedy.
Yeah.
I know it's a comedy drama, but
it's very much comedy drama, yeah.
But to me, I grew up with Big and Dragnet and
all
Man with One Red Shoe.
Oh, bad.
The Burbs. Bachelor Party.
Oh, God.
To me, Tom Hanks...
Money Pit. There you go. That's the one I remember.
Money Pit.
Money Pit and Splash were the two I remember the most when I was a kid of him. And Big, but you already mentioned it.
Big had done really well. That was an Oscar.
Yeah, but he goes first. And the first time people looked at him and went, oh, he's good.
And he is a great actor, but... For my youth, it was him doing comedy.
Yeah.
And the only time you really see him do comedy now is when he goes on SNL, which he's still really good on.
Yeah.
But it looks cool. It looks bit like he done the Mr. Rogers film a few years ago. Is that sort of? But this is a good director, Mark Foster, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Who's done some films I've really liked more, and I don't think he's a comedy director, is he?
No, he's a sort of Hollywood director for hire, really. Lots of different kind of
movies.
movies.
World War Z, I've not seen that. Quantum of Solace. Yeah. He done Christopher Robin, which I liked, with Ewan McGregor. One film I really liked was when it was a comedy drama with Will Ferrell, Stranger in Fiction.
Yeah, which is a bit of an oddball movie.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's good. It was a good one, yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
That's got a few screenings.
Absolutely, yeah. That should do fairly well, I hope. It will be playing in the bigger cinemas, I believe, I'm sure. But we've got it early. So, because it's coming out next month. This month even. So we've got it, in a similar sort of time, and won't be, it won't be a movie that will be showing later on, and when everyone's already seen it.
And one thing going for it, I think, is the times you're showing it. Sometimes at the bigger cinemas, it's on. They put them on at
so they have them either really late or very early,
and you've got them at 6 in the evening. Yeah,
which for the majority of our audience seems to be their preferable time for coming to the cinema.
And 2:30 showing on Tuesday the 31st.
Yeah, and our matinees are getting better. The numbers are going up.
For me, working nights, that's when you most see me, isn't it? And it's not just because it's £1 cheaper in the afternoon, which does help.
Yeah, of course. Well, it would. I mean, if you are a busy person and that is really the only time that you get a chance to see a movie, maybe, like you work in a lot of time in the evenings or whatever, and you also hear, it's cheaper, then why wouldn't you?
Exactly, perfect time. 2:30, you can have your lunch, you can see a film,
exactly.
Then you can have your tea.
And like I say, it is, because they used to be, in the past, those were really good. And they hadn't been since we reopened with after the pandemic and things, but it's getting better. The numbers are going up, which is great. And there's one other film to mention, which will start showing on the 28th, going into the 2nd of February. This is Inisherin, which is a little Cornish movie by a director called Mark Jenkin, who is, I believe, Cornish himself, makes films in Cornwall. He made a film called Bait 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now, I think it was 2019, which we showed, which was brilliant. Just absolutely loved that film. So this one looks also great. Different. That one was more of a drama about the changing of economic climate, in a small fishing village where people from out of town have come and sort of changed the way things are, made it more about people holidaying instead of fishing. It's kind of like a class thing sort of movie. But this is a psychological horror. Very much got the trailer very much suggests things like Wicker Man folk horror type thing, but more perhaps psychedelic or a bit sort of surreal, not sure what's real, what's not kind of thing. Very little is given away, if anything, in fact, in the trailer. That is very much just an image-based trailer where it's just like, do you like movies that look kind of like this? Yes, well, go see this.
Okay. A proper trailer.
A proper trailer, yeah.
5 stars.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer gets 5 stars from me. Yeah. So I'm hoping it was going to be equally as good as a film.
And this is January's episode. You're showing it on the 28th. And then also on the 1st and 2nd of February.
That's right, yeah.
So this is one to go see. It could become the cult classic.
Hopefully, yes. It's got all the makings, markings and such to suggest that it will be, yeah.
Okay, just want to quickly mention next month.
Yes.
Is showing Babylon.
This is February and March. We've got written down there which is on the reading from the brochure here. So February, March, we also coming. So can't tell you exactly when, but in those 2 months we'll be having Babylon, Fabelmans, Tar, Broker, The Whale, those friends. Brendan Fraser. It's Darren Aronofsky's next new film. So
I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, and Peter von Kant. So that's a movie.
But you probably can't say or don't know yet.
Yeah.
The next VH.
Yeah, don't can't no mentioning this previous at this particular moment. Yeah.
I did have someone mention to me they'd love to see Spinal Tap.
Yeah, well, of course, that's one that has been mentioned. We talked about it. Probably will at some point, but probably not as the next movie after a musical film.
Yeah.
So probably go for something, a different genre type thing before we get to Spinal Tap. But Spinal Tap certainly is one that we're more than, as long as they do well, as long as people come to them, that will come up.
Yeah, so many people who I know, so I'm talking to friends here, say we're going to come. Some have. Some haven't.
Absolutely.
And the ones, I mean, I've not made all of them. I've tried.
No, but you work a lot when we've got the films on. So,
but I've enjoyed the ones I have got to, and it's good. I'm so pleased it's back. Blues Brothers on the big screen is going to be fantastic.
Yes, and it will be on the big screen. Yes, the big cinema out of the two cinemas that we have.
Okay, so thanks a lot, James. 2023, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Ooh,
it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be speaking to you next month as well.
You will, indeed.
And I'm going to try to get Dan on again next month as well.
Yeah, you should do.
Catch up with Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye.
Since recording that, I have been lucky enough to go to a sneak peek, exclusive premiere showing of Empire of Light. I just want to say, do go and see it. It's on at King Street for two weeks. I'm actually going to go and see it again. There's a few people I think need to see this. Nostalgia-wise, fantastic. So well shot, so well made. As James mentioned, it should be up for some awards very soon. A few of the reviews I've seen haven't been great. I don't really understand that, but sometimes, I don't know, sometimes people just like to moan about things, and it might be one of those movies, much like when La La Land came out, which was a film that critically didn't do 100% brilliantly. It won a lot of awards, and then there's a bit of backlash, but I really enjoyed that as well. So I do recommend, and this, honestly, is the film you'll want to see in an independent cinema, and it's behind the scenes of the cinema, so you'll get it. Okay, not much time left on this episode, but as mentioned at the beginning of the show, Chris Asker is back, and let's just have another little chat about the Blues Brothers, a film that he very much loves, very influential. I will just add, normally I play the trailer for the movie that we mainly focus on. I actually couldn't find a decent trailer for it. A lot of it's just very, very loud, and the car crashes and that sort of thing. It doesn't really transfer well to audio, so I haven't this time. But I do suggest that after, maybe if you're listening to this on Spotify, which most people are, just put the Blues Brothers soundtrack on. It's a classic, one of the best soundtracks, in my opinion, ever recorded. Anyway, here's Chris Asker. Thanks very much for joining us again, Chris. I really enjoyed last month's Christmas Carol, Muppet version. We had a good old chat about that. Another film that I'm guessing you grew up with is the Blues Brothers. Can you tell us about do you remember the first time you saw it?
Oh, I don't know. I must have been early teens. It would have been around Christmas, and it was on late at night on ITV or something. And so I generally wasn't allowed to watch films I enjoyed watching because my parents I knew wouldn't like them. So I used to take control of the old VHS. Yeah. And I remember recording it. I still have the VHS, actually. I recorded off the TV of it. And then I would have watched it at my leisure, probably while I was on school holidays during the day.
Yeah. So is that... VHS Fridays at King Street, kind of perfect. I mean, I had a copy of it, is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say if it was legal or not. And then I had another legal copy. That's what happened. Yeah. I watched it over and over again. And what does the film mean to you?
It's one of my favourite films. I think there's no other film ever made before or after it. It's a musical, but it's not just a musical. It has all the fancy elements you get in a musical, in that literally they start breaking into song for no reason, and everyone seems to think it's perfectly fine. But it's kind of obviously got a certain cash to it, in that you've got all these blues greats. It was certainly my introduction to a lot of the classic blues and soul artists. watching it. And I also love, it's crazy, it's manic, it's almost like a cartoon at some points. Like the violence is very cartoony. It's just silly, but it's got some quite sweet moments in it as well. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a chaotic mix of brilliant music, great action sequences, and great jokes.
Yeah. Glad you mentioned the musical side of it, because it's not. If people do their sort of top 10 musicals, it's never in them. And for me, it'd be number one. And it's more seen as the comedy in car chasing, which it is part of it, but it is definitely a musical. One thing I want to mention, we spoke to Rob Lewis, who I know you know, who's in the Blues Brothers Tribute Act. He wasn't really aware of the Saturday Night Live side of it, whereas I know you're a fan of SNL. Yeah. Were you aware of the Blues Brothers before the show, or was it? Because of that age, being in this country where it's not really shown, I was just wondering. I got into the Blues Brothers because of SNL, and I'm guessing other people might be the other way around. Yeah,
it was certainly the other way around. My gateway into SNL was probably through Wayne's World. I think. Yeah. And even then, I wasn't aware of SNL until I watched Wayne's World, and that was kind of my gateway into it. So I didn't really understand. I knew that there was a show called SNL. I knew that there had been these comedians who had come through it. Before I'd seen Blues Brothers, I'd seen Ghostbusters, and obviously I knew that had come through the SNL side of things as well. It was the SNL thing wasn't really in my kind of sphere of knowledge at the time it came out.
Okay, yeah, because we talk about VHSs, you could get the best of SNL VHS in the early 90s when Wayne's World came out, and there was a Wayne's World one called Wayne's World Special Edition with 3 episodes with 3 Wayne's World clips. I got that, and then there was a Steve Martin one, best of him, and the special guests on one of the episodes was the Blues Brothers. So that's how I got into it. Being of a young age, this is a question I said to Rob as well. Did you put the Dan Aykroyd connection of Elwood and Ray from the two? Because I remember them being, even though they made 4 years apart, they seemed like completely different people to me. Yeah,
and I guess that's kind of down. I mean, I also really probably not before I'd seen the Blues Brothers. After seeing Ghostbusters, I'd also seen Dragnet.
Oh yes,
as well.
Tom Hanks.
So, but another completely different role for Dan Aykroyd, probably closer to the Elwood character, being his more a straight character rather than a comedy character. But yeah, kind of like they did seem like different people because he has such a wide range. Yeah.
So strange you mentioned Dragnet. Talking to James about the new Tom Hanks film, what's coming out at King Street at the end of the month, and I mentioned Dragnet, and that's kind of a forgotten movie. But really, I know it wasn't the huge hit, but that's another film that kind of might work well for the VHS Fridays. You certainly fit into it, whether as many people as us would, I'm assuming you'd like to see that.
Yeah.
But it's not that big cult film like the Blues Brothers. Quick thoughts as well, we're going to keep it quick because we've talked a lot about the Blues Brothers. What are your views on Blues Brothers 2000?
I think it was a noble thing to do. I think it was I guess I see it as kind of a tribute. Yeah, it's Dan Aykroyd's kind of tribute to John and to obviously the other acts that had passed away that were in the first one. So I see it as a tribute. I don't think it's a great film. I don't think the writing's not as strong. The musical artists aren't as strong. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think John Goodman's great in it. Yeah. I think it's well acted, but I just don't think it just pales in comparison in every way. It's
almost like a tribute act to the first film.
Yes, yeah.
I said earlier, and I think it's kind of a kids' version of the. Yeah. They do have the kid in it. It's a nice film. It's a nice sort of Saturday afternoon film. And if you could, I don't like putting you on the spot because I do like to do all these live and not edit it. But if you can think of your favourite song and your favourite cameo from it.
So my favourite song is "Shake Your Tail Feather."
Classic. Yeah,
Ray Charles, I think, is absolutely amazing. Favourite cameo, it's difficult. I mean, the fact that I didn't really understand how important the members of the Blues Brothers band were. I mean, you've got some of the great songwriters in there, like Duck Dunn and people like that. But again, I would say Carrie Fisher, but she's not really a cameo in it.
That's what Rob said. Actually, he said he did.
I would say Carrie Fisher, but she's not really a cameo. I mean, I think his cameos. James Brown's cameo. Great. I think he nails that. Yeah, that character absolutely perfectly. Yeah. And for me, as like somebody who didn't really know a lot of the blues artists, necessarily, but had obviously heard James Brown because he's such a big name.
Yeah.
Suddenly when he comes in, it's suddenly like, oh my god, it's James Brown.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's good. For me, music-wise, I've got to say Ray Charles, because it's a funny scene. Whether you do that joke now, because of
Yeah.
But that always makes me laugh. And just the fact Steven Spielberg's in it, I like that.
Yeah,
It's just acting or trying to.
Yeah.
So right, so we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to say big thanks for coming on again.
No worries.
2 months in a
Always
row.
a pleasure.
And thanks for everyone for listening. We'll be back with another one next month, beginning of February. I don't know what film we're going to mainly feature on. I'll let you know, as I said earlier, on the socials. I was trying to get it out of James earlier, but he didn't let us know. Probably means he doesn't know himself. So thank you all very much for listening, and don't forget to find Chris Asker on all the socials, as well as Rob Lewis. Thank you very much.